So we are done discussing these things, and we discussed about Chrome driver. We discussed about say Internet Explorer driver. Instead of Edge driver, we discussed about Firefox driver. But the all these drivers use the same concept. So we need not to discuss about everything right now. Right now, today we would be discussing about the concept of interfaces. What are interfaces, and how would we be able to work with them? Apart from that, we would be discussing about what is the need for an interface as well, right? And say how we use it, right? So how interfaces are used in Selenium as well. So today is all about interfaces, and then we would be starting with Selenium. Okay, and from now onwards, from after this lecture, like from the next lecture, we would be totally working on Selenium. Okay, so as I introduced you interfaces, what are interfaces? So let us just discuss about it. And over here, let us just write few things down, right? So the first question is interface, right? What is it and how would we be able to use it? As the name says interface, it provides some basic structure, right? So how it provides a basic structure, that let us just see that. Now consider an example. For example, we have a phone, right? We have different kind of phones, right? We have few phones which have different functionalities. We have some other phones which have some different functionalities, right? But the thing is that there are some functionalities which are common across all the phones. That is calling, SMS, and clip, right? These three things are always provided by each and every phone in this world, right? Any phone is say any phone, any mobile phone, right? So let us just call this as cell phone, right? So every cell phone is having these three features, right? So the thing is that how would we be able to implement these features everywhere, right? Now we can implement, that is not a fair issue, but the thing is that we want consistency, right? So for example, the dialer. So if you can use a dialer of any phone, you would notice that even the same brand is designing dialer in two, three different ways, right? For example, Samsung. In one Samsung phone, you would be able to see a different kind of dialer. In another Samsung phone, you would be able to see another kind of dialer, right? So let us just look for some free space. Okay, so let us just create a new one. That would be better. Okay, so over here, now the thing is that we have phones, right? So this is a interface which specifies few things. What things? Let us just jot them down. Okay, call, SMS, clip, right? We can call it clip, we can call it say caller ID, right? Anything we can call it. Now over here, this is a phone interface. So just a second, why it is not typing on place. Okay, so phone interface, right? Now there are implementing classes as well. So if there is an implementing class, suppose this is an implementing class. Now whatever methods it has, it needs to implement all these three methods, that is call, SMS, clip. The same way, if there is another one, that also needs to implement this thing, right? Now over here, if we have multiple classes, suppose this much, and all these are implementing the same interface, okay? So they can use it, right? All they have to do is that implement these methods, that is call. So say call, SMS, and clip. These three things need to be implemented. Okay. So call, SMS and clip. So these three things always need to be implemented whenever they are being, say, called up from the, say, interface, right? We are not calling them, actually we are just specifying that the class should implement these things, right? That is, these should implement a interface. So call, SMS and clip. I'm not typing this thing everywhere, but yes, these three things need to be implemented. Now let us have a practical example over here in the code, how it works and how would we be able to work with it. So first of all, what we need to do is that we need to open Eclipse. Where Eclipse is stored? It is stored over here in this directory, that is batches, then Eclipse Luna, Eclipse, and here eclipse.exe. It would take a little bit time for opening Eclipse, and then once it is open, we would be able to work with it properly, right? Now over here, see, coming back to this, these methods can have, see, these classes can have more methods as well. It is not mandatory that these should have these much methods only. That is call, SMS, clip, right? We can have more methods as well. For example, say maps. Okay, so it is not mandatory, but the mandatory thing is this, that is these three things. These are mandatory to be implemented by each and every implementing class. Okay, now over here we need to click and choose the workspace. Every time we need to choose this whenever we open Eclipse. You can skip that part as well by choosing the option permanently, but the problem is that in some cases you won't be able to change the workspace. So say if there is a problem with the workspace, you won't be able to open Eclipse at all. So you need to troubleshoot in that case. So better thing is that you click on OK every time rather than like going with the default workspace. Okay. Now over here, okay, it is still starting. And let us just wait for this to open, then we'll start with the code part. Okay, so it has opened. Now, first of all, what we need to do is that we need to close this project. We need not to work with the day 2 project. Let us just create a new project named as day 3, right? So day 3. Now we can click on next and we can add the Selenium jars as well. So over here in the libraries, we need to click on add external jars and we can add all these jars. All the jars are kept in the same directory, so we need not to do anything else. And these are added. Now coming back to the main thing, that is the phone interface. So usually what we do is that we create a new class. Instead, we would be creating a new interface and we'll name this as phone. Okay. So this has been created. Now the thing is that what we're going to define over here, whether we would be able to have a main method over here, actually no, but what we would be going to have is we would be creating few methods. That is, first one is say call, right? So we can create the call method and over here we can define it. So if I hit control space, it would take a little bit time for my system to understand things. Once it has say started its auto suggestions, then it won't be causing any kind of trouble. Okay. And you can see that it is just right now showing me these things. What we have to do is that we need to create a new method. So public void call. Okay. And this is a call method. In the same way, we can have SMS method. So public void, and what is the method name? That is SMS. Now we have the option of describing it over here, but no, we won't be describing it over here. The reason is that we want it to be described by the implementing class. Okay, so public void and clip. So these are the things, right? Now what we can do is that, see, we have this interface. What we can do, we can just create a new class out of it, right? How? We can specify the name, say Apple iPhone, right? So over here, click on, and here what I would be mentioning is that we would be mentioning implements phone. Okay, it can be phone, or what we can do is that we can rename it. Now how would we be able to rename it? Alt Shift R. Okay, this moves into the rename mode, and we can provide the name that we want to use. So say cell phone, right? I'll click on finish and it would update the resources everywhere, right? And you can see that it has updated it everywhere. Now as we have chosen the implements part, right? So what it is showing us is, on the Apple iPhone it is giving us an error. Now what error it is giving us? It is telling us that we have two suggestions. First one is add unimplemented methods, or the second one is make the type abstract, right? So over here what we have to do is that we need to choose the first option, that is add unimplemented. The moment I choose it, you can see that there are three methods that are auto created and they are overridden as well, right? We can specify the things over here. For example, I can specify like this, that is, say calling through an iPhone, right? So calling using calling implementation in iPhone, right? In the same way, what we can do is that we can just print out these things and we can have it here. So this is SMS, and here this is clip, right? So over here we have this. Now in the same way we can have another class as well. So let us just have another class, and this time we would be having Android phone. I'll say Samsung phone, right? Now over here, same way what we need to do is that we need to choose the option implements cell phone. Okay, and this is done. We need to choose this option, that is add unimplemented methods. Here calling using Samsung phone now. So Samsung phone, and let us just update the things everywhere. This is SMS, and the last one is, say, this thing, that is clip, right? Now over here we have mentioned these things. We can have multiple phones. For example, we can have a smaller phone as well, or say Nokia phone, right? So Nokia phone, and Nokia implements its in its own ways, right? So again, implements cell phone, right? Now over here, Nokia phone needs to implement all these three unimplemented methods, and what we have to do is that we just need to specify okay, it has copied the wrong thing. Let us just copy the correct data again, right? So over here, calling using Nokia phone, and let us just copy it and provide it again, and here, right, SMS and clip, right? Now we have these three classes. What we can do is that we can create a new class named as test phone, so that we can test all these things. So test phone, right? Now what we would be doing is we would be creating objects of these classes. For example, first of all, let us just have the main method. So main method, and here say Nokia phone, right? Nokia phone, say phone equals to new Nokia phone, right? And what we can do is that we can call in the method. So say phone dot call, right? And say phone dot SMS, and see the last thing, that is phone dot what, that is clip, right? So if I run this code, you would notice that it is printing in these three things, that is calling implementation in Nokia phone, clip implementation is in Nokia phone, and the third one is, that is SMS implementation in Nokia phone, right? Now over here, what if I want to work with Samsung phone? So usually what we would be doing is, we would be doing like this, that is Samsung phone equals to new Samsung phone, right? And the same things. So this time the Samsung phone, right? And you can see that it is just telling us that we need to rename it because the name is already available. So say S phone would be fine. S phone, S phone, S phone, and S phone, right? Now let me just run this code, and you would notice that this is working absolutely fine, right? Now what if we would want to have some dynamic thing? What dynamic thing? So we have this, say, interface called as cell phone, right? Can we do something with this cell phone interface so that we don't have to specify that like this, right? Let us just have some dynamic things, right? So instead of going with this old plain method, what we would be doing is, we would be specifying something more specific, that is cell phone, okay? Say phone equals to new cell phone. So that won't be done, but what we can do is that we can specify Nokia phone, okay? So new Nokia phone, and here I would be calling in these three methods, that is phone call, phone SMS, and phone clip. So these three are being called up. Let us just uncomment these three lines, and we can run this. So if you notice now, I have not specified Nokia over here, but the code is executing. What if I specify something else? Instead of Nokia, I specify Samsung phone, right? Now let us just run this with, is it executing? Yes, it is executing. And if you notice, the name has been changed from Nokia to Samsung, right? Now over here, in the same way, we can choose Apple phone as well. So say Apple iPhone, and let us just run this, and you would notice that it is showing us these things, that is calling implementation in iPhone, clip implementation in iPhone, and SMS implementation in iPhone. So all I'm changing is this part, that is the object, okay? The object references of the interface, and the object is of the implementing class. Benefit is that we can call in the methods specified by the interface, right? Now these methods can be used anytime, right? Only the implementation would be different, but yes, it is made sure that all these three methods are there. If you notice, I'm just commenting out these 4 lines, right? And I'll save it. Immediately this code would start throwing an error. We won't be able to use this code now until or unless we remove this problem, right? So Control Z and Control S. This is working fine now, right? There are no errors, and you cannot see any errors in the problems part as well. The moment you say comment it out, right, and you save it, you would notice that there is one error, that is there is a unimplemented method, right? This, the type Nokia must implement the inherited abstract method cellphone.clip, right, which has not been implemented, right? So this is how we can do this. We can implement the things. Now what if you would want to have some extra functionality? For example, Apple has something, that is, say, Apple Maps. So public void Apple Maps. Right? Now this is something specific to Apple only. Right? So maps in iPhone by Apple. Right? So is it mandatory that every phone should have Apple Maps? No. Is it mandatory that every phone should have a clip or SMS or call? Yes. Right? So over here now we have specified something specific to Apple Maps only. Sorry, Apple iPhone only. So let us just save this code. And here, did I make change in? No. Why it is showing us some errors over here? Okay, the errors are gone. Right? Now coming back to the test phone, here Apple iPhone is implemented. Right? So what we can do is that we can call in the method that is phone dot, what is the method name? Let us just copy paste that. Right? That is Apple Maps. Right? Now over here phone dot Apple Maps, and let us just see whether it is being called off or not. If we notice now, it is telling us few things, that is create a method in the cell type cell phone, right? Or you can have the option add cast to phone. Right? Now there is no method in the interface, that is cell phone. Right? Now Apple Maps need to be implemented. So how would we be able to implement it? Simply we can create the object of type the Apple iPhone. Now if I do this, you can see that the error has gone and you can execute the code and there would be no issues. Right? Now you have got to know the difference between the interface and the normal class. Right? Now let us just see that in the case of Selenium. Right? So how would we be able to see this? Let us just see that. And just give me a moment. The Selenium part. Okay, before we start with Selenium part, let us just create more methods in every class. Right? Say Nokia phone, Nokia implements Google Maps. Right? So say public void Google Maps. Right? So Google Maps, and say system.out.println Google, we can print like this, Google Maps, and say Nokia phone. Okay, Nokia has its own maps actually, so let us just not have Google Maps. That would be something different. Right? Nokia has here maps. So here we go maps. Right? So we can specify it over here as well. So here we go maps in Nokia phone. Right? And say Samsung phone has Google Maps. So Google Maps. So that would be better, right? Public void Google Maps. Right? And simply system.out.println Google Maps in Samsung phone. Right? Now three different brands are implementing three different ways of mapping softwares. Right? They have their own mapping softwares, but the thing is that they have their own implementations, so they are independent of each other. Right? Nokia's maps are not dependent on Google Maps. Google Maps are not dependent on Apple Maps. Right? Every map is independent of its own, and the thing is that this is not a mandatory feature. Right? So over here, if we want to call these, what we have to do is that we just need to create the objects like this. So say Apple phone, we can call it a phone. So we need to provide it everywhere. Then what we can do is that Nokia phone, So Nokia phone, N phone, right, equals to new Nokia phone, and we can call in the methods. So say nphone dot call nphone dot sms nphone dot clip, and the last one, that is nphone dot, here we go maps, right? Now if I run this, you would notice that these are getting printed. Okay, now the thing is that we say interface is providing us the basic structure, but we can have our own structure as well. But the thing is that we need to implement that basic structure. Okay, if there is a interface, okay, there is a class implementing that interface. So if there are three methods in an interface, we need to implement those three methods in a implementing class, right? Now coming to the Selenium, so over here this is the official website of Selenium, right? seleniumhq.org. So we would be going to the download section. In the download section, you would notice that here we have the Java docs. So let us just open Java docs. Now, whenever we have a implementation of a interface, we would notice something different. What is that? What different is this? So the thing is, you would notice that the name would be in italics, right? So as you can see that WebDriver is an interface, and the implementing classes are Chrome driver, Edge driver, event firing WebDriver, and other web drivers, right? All these web drivers are implementing the WebDriver interface. WebDriver interface is telling the say classes that these methods should be there, that is close, find element by, right? Then get current URL, get page source, get title, get window handles, get window handle, right? Manage, navigate, quit, switch to. So these are the methods which need to be implemented all the time, right? Now over here, what we would be doing is that we would be creating some code, we would be writing some code, allowing us to open the browsers dynamically. So dynamic browsers, right? Now over here, the simplest way of opening dynamic browser is this, that is, let us just jot this down. We need to have the main method first, right? And what we would be doing is, say, let us have a variable named as browser name. So browser name equals to what data it has. So the data it has is this, that is, say, Mozilla, right? Now just a moment, please keep your mics muted and don't unmute them until or unless it is needed. Okay, it creates a little bit disturbance. So over here, now we have specified the browser name, right? Now what we need to do is that we need to have few things defined. So suppose first of all we need to have an if statement, right? Now if statement, what condition do we need to have? We need to compare the data. So to compare the data in this, okay, to compare the data in Selenium or in Java, what we need to do is that we need to specify something like this. Whenever it is a string type data, okay, so browser name dot equals, right? And we can specify the data over here, say Mozilla. So if it is Mozilla, then it should be doing something like this, that is, say Firefox driver equals to new Firefox driver, right? And this is done. Now over here we can call in the methods. So say driver dot get, right? And just a second. Yeah, so driver dot get. Now in driver dot get, we can specify the website that we would want to open. So https www dot google .co.in, right? This is one of the actions that we would want to perform. There would be multiple actions, right? Now this is about Firefox browser. Now we need to work with other browsers as well. That is, say if the browser name dot equals to, now what it is equal to, it is equals to Chrome, right? Now over here, what needs to be done is we need to write the code for this. So say Chrome browser, Chrome driver equals to new Chrome driver, and say the same page that we would be opening over here. Let us just open this page, right? Now we can have multiple browsers. So let us just have some few things to be performed. So say after opening this, that is say google.com, we would be opening some other say page, right? So driver.get. Now the URL is this, that is https www.microsoft.com, right? And here we have this method. Let us just have one more line added. So driver dot say get and https www.amazon.in, right? Now over here, these are the three lines that are being repeated every time, right? We have a total of 19 lines of code, if you notice it over here, right? Now the thing is, do we have something dynamic? Actually no, the lines are getting repeated. This is not something that we need, right? We don't want repetition in data. What we can do is that we can make use of an interface. So what needs to be done? First of all, we need to specify something over here, that is say driver, right? And this is done. First thing is done. Now what we have to do is that we just need to specify it like this. We don't have to specify the type, right? Now what we have to do is, instead of keeping the code over here, we would be keeping the code outside if condition, right? So from 19 lines, the code has been reduced to 18 lines, but the benefit is that we can add more lines and that won't be doubling every time, right? Over here, we just need to type in like this, that is say null, and this is done, right? Now as we have specified the browser name as Mozilla, if I run this code, it would be opening Firefox browser, right? And what I'll do, I'll just run this code. It would take a little bit time for the browser to open, and once it is open, we would be able to see that these are the three things which are being done, right? First of all, it would be opening google.co.in, then it would be opening microsoft.com, and then in the end, it would be opening amazon.in, right? Now over here, guys, please keep your mics muted. It creates a lot of disturbance over here. Someone's mic is getting unmuted and muted again and again. Okay, so whose mic is this? Sunita, you have joined from two places. Can you exit one? Just a moment, guys. Someone's mic is getting enabled and disabled, and that is causing a lot of disturbance over here. So over here now, as you can see that we are opening the browser and it is browsing to these pages, right? Now as you have noticed that I'm not specifying the line that is system.setProperty, right? Now why I have not specified, because see, every time we are opening the browser we cannot specify the line. Sometimes we forget that, right? So we would be doing something with the configuration of our system that we would be doing later on, right? I'll be telling you, don't worry about it. In the same lecture I would be working with it. Right now the concern is this, that is we have these things we are performing, right? And we don't have to do much of a thing, right? I'll just change the browser from Mozilla to Chrome, okay? And Chrome, and you would notice that Chrome browser would be opening now, right? It would take a little bit time for the browser to open, but yes, it would be opening, and you can see that it has started to open and it has opened the browser. Once the page has been opened, then it would be opening the next page. Once this page has been opened, the third page would be opened, right? Now the benefit of this is that we have the code and that is concised now, right? The same line would work for some other browser, right? We need to decide the browser that we would want to open, but the thing is that the actions are same, so why to waste the lines of code, right? Suppose we have two browsers right now. What if we have, say, 5 browsers? Then would you be repeating the same data again and again? No, the answer to this is no, right? Clearly no. Reason that we don't want to waste our lines of code. We want to do something more dynamic, right? So with the help of using this interface, we are keeping the things dynamic. Now there are other drive interfaces as well. For example, the main thing is this WebDriver interface. There are other interfaces. You can see those over here. If I show you, see, like this action, right? This is also an interface. Anything mentioned in the say italics part, this alert, this is also an interface, right? Now in the same way there is an interface named as web element, right? So web element is an interface. You can see this over here. Now the implementing classes would be implementing few methods, that is click, submit, send keys, right? Now over here the clear, get tag name, so there are a lot of things, but yes, these need to be implemented by the implementing classes, right? So whenever this interface has been used in say in a class, so all these classes need to be implementing these things, right? For example, search context and take screenshot implements these things, right? Now over here, let us just go back to the code. And as one of you has had a question that I'm not specifying system.setProperty line, still my browsers are getting opened, right? Now the answer to this is this, that is, if you notice, I extracted the drivers in a location, in a particular location, right? So if I go to that location, that is this web drivers, right? Now there are two web drivers. We can keep more web drivers as well, right? What you have to do is that make sure these are the exe files, then copy this whole path, okay? Copy this path. Now open start menu, look for something named as path variables, right? The moment you'll type path, it would be giving you the option, that is edit the system environment variables, and go to this option, click on environment variables. Now here go to the path variable, double click on it, and here you need to click on the new button and you need to provide this path as I've provided it over here. So I don't need to provide the path again and again. Once you're done providing this path, click on OK and click on OK, right? And click on OK. Once you're done, you can restart your Eclipse If it opens the browser, then it's good. Otherwise, just restart your machine and you're good to go. Okay. Now over here, you don't have to specify that line again. That is, say, system dot set property, right? Dot say WebDriver dot Jekyll dot driver and then the path, right? We don't have to specify this line. What we have done is we have specified something, that is we have specified the path from where the code can access the executable of the WebDriver, right? Now this is done and we can open the browsers dynamically. Now over here, I have specified the URL, right? Now there is something that you guys need to know. Whenever you're specifying the URL over here, that should be a completely qualified URL. You cannot provide in something like this. That is the way we provide in browser, right? That is say google.com, right? Say google.com, right? I'm commenting out these other two lines. I'll execute this code and you guys will notice that there is some kind of issue, right? What is that issue? Let us just see that. And over here, if you notice, the code has thrown in an exception. What is that exception? Let us just see that. Now over here, the exception is this, that is invalid argument exception, right? Now what is the problem? Let us just scroll down and notice that what problem it has given us, right? And over here, you can notice that it is telling us that the argument is wrong. First of all, this, and it is not telling us that what needs to be provided properly, right? But yes, it is just telling us that the argument is wrong, right? Now, what you have to do is that whenever you are providing this URL, make sure that you are providing the completely qualified URL. For example, if you're not sure of what is a completely qualified URL, just copy the URL that you have provided over here, paste it here and hit enter. Then you would be able to see the same URL, but the moment you click on it and copy it, then paste it over here back again, you would notice that this was the complete URL, right? HTTPS colon // www.google.com, right? Now we need to specify the protocol, these three things, then the URL, then it would be considered as the completely qualified URL, right? Now this is the URL, right? We have another way of opening a page as well. What is that way? That is, let us just see that, driver dot navigate dot to and the URL. So the same URL I would be providing that I've copied, and this is done. Now let me just execute this code and you would notice that it is opening the browser and it would be opening the page, that is this, right? Now what is the difference? We have this back button, right? That we don't have in case of driver.get, right? So over here, do we have? Let us just see that. Maybe we are having that, maybe we are not having that, right? So let us just see that and run this code. I have disabled driver.navigate.to and you can see that I'm opening the page and I'm having the button. So what is the difference, right? So both are implementing the same thing, but the methods are different, right? We can do more things with driver.navigate to, right? But we cannot do more things with driver.get. For example, these are the three URLs we are opening, right? Now, after opening the last URL, what I would want to do is I just want to navigate back to the last page. So driver dot navigate dot back, and this would navigate one page back. Let us just see that, right? Now over here, once the browser has opened and it has opened amazon.in, then it would be going back to microsoft.com again, right? So microsoft.com, amazon.in. Once the page load is complete, it would be taking us back to microsoft.com, right? And you can see that this is done, right? I did not do anything. The code is doing these things, right? So this was for today's lecture. If you have any queries for today's lecture, you guys can feel free to ask.
Can you please go back to the code? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, if we see that driver dot navigate dot back or navigate dot to, so here driver is an interface. Uh,
Right.
Navigate is a
No, driver is not an interface. Driver is the object
object of
reference.
the class. Yeah, and
Yeah.
navigate is a method.
Method. Yes.
Then what is the back? Then again we are calling one more method.
Yeah. So inside the navigate part, we have a back method, right? So this is a sub method,
Okay.
okay,
Okay. Fine.
which is inside navigate.
And I have one more question that in that interface thing,
Yeah.
we have used three different methods inside that
Right.
interface. Yeah. So
Right.
like that, can we also use the variable over there?
See, we can specify the variables as well.
Okay. So and
Right.
that would be mandatory to for the implement classes when
Yeah.
we implement it.
But I would suggest you using the methods only.
Okay.
Yeah. Just try the code yourself, then you guys will get to know that how the